We are going to look at two real life use cases for AI in medical affairs. We're going to show you an example of the next best content generation tool and use of AI. And then we're going to jump in on how AI can be used within the area of insight generation. Now, this is a little bit different than a lot of our other sessions. A lot of our other sessions, we're practicing skills and we're learning some new things that we can do ourselves. Today, because we've had so many people ask to see some real life examples, we're actually going to pull up a couple of tools, show you how they work. Again, we're not going to do everything that they do, but you're going to get to see how AI in the hands of the field team can help improve productivity, provide better engagements and interactions. So, really excited to jump in on this. My name is Scott Thompson. I am the co CEO of Acceleration Point, and I've been helping medical excellence leaders build effective medical affairs organizations for the last 15 years. Really excited to share with you some of the work that we've seen done and that we've been doing in AI. And today I have a special guest. I don't bring guests onto our webinars very often because I'm very, very protective of you. You guys choose to join us. And so I only bring people onto this stage who have earned it. People that not only really focus and understand medical affairs, but have tons of credibility. And when my clients and when my friends in the industry say, this is somebody that I trust, it's somebody that I know, that's when they get to share the stage with us. So, welcome to the stage and welcome to our session, Eric Chen from Alucio. Eric, so nice to have you with us.
Hey, thanks, Scott. And hi, everyone. I'm Eric. I'm the CTO at Alucio, where we've built our scientific exchange platform for medical affairs teams. And I'm very excited today to really show all of you how AI can be applied to that content that the field teams are using it every day in their exchanges.
Awesome, Eric. I can't wait to show everybody what you showed me last week. It was so amazing. All right, well, let's jump in today. So here's where we're going to start, right? We're going to talk about AI and we're going to move very quickly to practical hands on demonstration of how field teams are using it today with two examples. But where we have to start is whenever I get called into a conversation about I quickly hear about the AI dream, right? Now, many of you are probably working toward that AI dream, that big machine that just knows everything about everything you're doing, understands your medical strategy, understands your disease state, understands what an MSL is, what a KOL is, and can give you amazing advice right out of the gate. And that is what a lot of teams are working toward. However, we find that this dream seems to be getting further and further away. While we're building all these tools, they're becoming very big, they're becoming very clunky, they're becoming something that is taking so long to deploy that the field teams and the medical affairs teams that we work with are starting to say, what can I do now? Yeah, overwhelmed, absolutely, right? It becomes so big that we're waiting on something versus what could we do like today? Okay. And so while we see that people are building these tools, there are people starting to get some work today. And Alucio recently released a study with the MSL Society. Eric, do you want to tell us just a little bit about what you found in that study?
Yeah. In that study, we surveyed both executives and field MSLs and found that there is an overwhelming interest in AI and the potential that AI is able to provide to their teams. So if we move forward on the next slide, we can see that 95% of executives on medical affairs teams recognize the impact that AI will have on their teams. And that 97% of MSLs believe that AI can help them with their effectiveness with their AKOLs and their engagement. So this is something that it just reinforces just the overall interest inside of the industry for AI and also just the recognition of the impact that will be having in the upcoming years.
Awesome. So Eric and I have been talking, and I've got a chance to talk to a lot of CTOs, a lot of AI experts. And here's one of the things that we're predicting is that today that you've got the big system that everybody's working towards. But in a year maybe two. It's not going to be this big centralized AI system that everything is trying to tie into because it has too much complexity. What we think is going to happen and what we're starting to see is that individual applications are building AI solutions that are unique and specific to the thing you're trying to do in that platform, right? Because how you use AI when you're in Teams or Outlook is going to be really different than if you're using your CRM or if you're trying to present content or if you're trying to analyze insights. And so over time, what we think is going to happen is we're going to go, oh, does your application print? Does it save? Does it have AI? Of course, right? And it's just going to become the way things are. Okay. So that's what we see coming forward. Question for all of you. Let's just find out what you guys have today. If you could, just in a couple of words, what type of AI does your team in the field already have? Right? You could just put next best action or analytics or none or copilot. Just put it in. What do you guys find that your teams already have in the field? What experience do you guys already have? Okay, building AI into your Power BI dashboards. What else? Just a few words. What AI is already being used in the field? PLAI. Some of you have Copilot. Okay, there's a next best action tool. Okay, MSL notes. Awesome. Insights being detected in the notes. That's a great option. Tom, you guys have deployed ChatGPT. That's fantastic. Summaries of Congress sessions. Next best. Okay. Awesome. So there's already some use of AI out there in the organization. That's fantastic because one of the things that we're finding is that it really takes some practice to get good at, right? And so for those who missed our digital ready MSL workshop, we'll include it in the show notes here when we send it out. There's things that we should be doing and practicing now for when we get these tools, but I'm so glad some of you already have them. Insights, summaries, ChatGPT, fantastic. Good. So we're not talking to people who have nothing. That's very good to know, Eric. That means what we can do is skip right ahead to some of the more advanced stuff. Okay. So before we show you the two examples, I think it's helpful to put in context some of the challenges that medical affairs is facing when deploying this technology. And I love that a lot of you already have deployed because maybe you'll recognize some of these challenges that you had and maybe have ways that you've overcome them. So here's the challenges that we see most teams struggling. And then we'll talk a little bit about how these two examples have been deployed in a way that overcame those challenges. So the first, we talked about it, waiting for IT to provide the big AI project, right? And you've got AI committees and people are still learning about it. We don't know how it's going to work. So that's one, the big IT project. Two is that AI is not integrated into our processes and tools. So a lot of people that have already gotten early access to things like Copilot or ChatGPT are finding it's really useful. But like if I'm in my CRM, I'm going back and forth and copying and pasting and moving things back and forth. It's not like where I do my work. So that was the second that we found. The third is that a lot of these are too generic, right? When we go into out of the box chat GPT, which don't get me wrong, I love it. I use it all the time. I use Copilot. It doesn't understand what medical affairs is. It doesn't know exactly what your strategy is or what you might be looking for. And so it gives you the best answer it can when it's doing things, but it doesn't know you, right? And so we need to have a way of having it look at specific data related to you that makes sense. Okay. And then the last is not having policies and compliance guidance on AI yet. They're still being formed. It's making it take longer to get some of these things deployed. So I'd love to hear from you. What is your biggest challenge in deploying AI out to your field team? It might be one of the things that we already talked about. You can just type a couple of words in, or it might be something we didn't talk about yet that you want to make sure that we cover and provide any experience on. So, few words. what is the biggest challenge you've had in deploying AI to your field teams? Let's see, what is it? I see some typing happening. Okay, compliance, measuring the impact. Absolutely. User adoption, right? Because it does require working differently, doesn't it? Okay, the integration. Oh, yeah, interoperability. You've got your CRM, you've got your DMS, you've got how do you get those things to work together? Molly, absolutely effective prompts, right? Because not everybody in medical affairs is going to go through prompt engineering school, right? So it has to work without that. Okay, data issues, okay, learning, optimizing, mutual. Thank you, Jackie. Yep. Oh, and then compiling things out of Viva. Yeah. Okay. So some of the challenges that I think that we can show you how at least we've seen them got overcome. So compliance, the biggest thing with compliance is to start small, right? Do one thing, practice it, end it, learn, do the next thing, right? Don't make it, we're changing the way medical affairs operates, right? The next is, and I think Tom just kind of talked about it, IT doesn't understand, right? The systems don't understand. And so this idea of we need a technology that is fully aligned with purpose and the compliant nature of medical affairs, right? It has to understand what it is that we're trying to do. And then the last one that I'll maybe call out here is around the user capabilities, user experience. I think Jessica just said training and expertise, right? Not blind leading the blind, right? So building effective prompts, learning how to do things, and user adoption all kind of go together. And again, what I've seen work best is when you have the opportunity to experiment, where you're doing something small, practice, get better at it, learn, and evolve over time versus waiting for the big bang. So, fantastic. Well, let's show you how we've seen tools like Beacon, like Quello, get deployed using AI. We'll kind of show you how those work and go from there. I think that Eric is coming up next. It looks like he just shared his screen. So we're going to do two case studies, two examples. Eric's going to go first, and Eric is going to walk you through a case study of how a platform can help predict topics and content that you might want to use in your next interaction with an HCP. So, Eric, I'll turn it over to you.
Great. Thanks, Scott. And yes, so today what we'll be doing is walking through a scenario around helping an MSL prepare for an upcoming meeting. And at Alucio, Beacon is really focused on content. And so that's where we've been focused on is how can we apply AI to the various use cases surrounding content that exists today and how we can help MSLs with using that content.
Hey, Eric,
Yep.
just while you're getting started, I'd love to just kind of get an idea of how big of a problem this is. So,
Yeah.
could you just maybe in the deck, sorry, in the chat, everybody, just how many slides, how many slides do your MSLs have access to? Do you have a dozen? Do you have hundreds? What are you seeing? How many do you have? Like hundreds.
I'm seeing hundreds.
Hundreds,
Yeah,
hundreds.
hundreds, lots of hundreds. Yes.
Got it. Hundred.
I've seen 500s all in one day. So
All right, Eric. Show us how you could use AI to get through that challenge.
Sure. So this is one area where I think AI, especially the newer AI technologies, just really excels at is using the large language models just to be able to process large volumes of content, like the hundreds of slides that we have. And so we think this is a really exciting area and for applying AI inside of medical affairs. Yeah, so here we have Beacon, and which is our platform for scientific exchange. And loaded within Beacon is all the organization's approved content. And it's available there for MSLs to be able to access, present, and also share with HCP. Today, we'll be helping an MSL get ready for a meeting with Dr. Burton, who's an HCP that they met with previously. And as part of preparing for this meeting, the MSL wants to prepare the slides for this meeting. And to do so, he'll be using the custom presentation feature within Beacon to be able to bring slides from a couple of different pieces of the different documents together into one presentation. So I'll go ahead and launch the custom presentation builder. And since it's an AI demo, we'll look at how AI can help with the generation of this presentation. The first thing we'll do is go over here and select Dr. Burton's account. Once I've selected his account, the system will go ahead and look at what content was presented in previous meetings with Dr. Burton, along with other data sources such as account plan information that might be inside of the CRM to suggest potential topics for the next meeting that I'm going to have with Dr. Burton. We happen to know Dr. Burton is interested in the latest ASCO 2024 data, so we'll go ahead and select that as our prompt or our meeting topic. And we'll go ahead and ask the system to go ahead and generate a presentation. And what it's doing here is it is going off into that content, all the documents that are loaded into Beacon. And of those approved documents, it is selecting 10 slides that it believes will form a cohesive presentation that we can then present to Dr. Burton tomorrow. So we can go ahead and review this presentation, and we can see that it follows the logical flow. But we also know that maybe Dr. Burton's asked us in the past about some additional data that he would be interested in. So we can go ahead and tell the system to add some information about secondary endpoint. So in this case, it has went ahead and brought in the survival slide, and we can go ahead and continue to interact with the system to build out this presentation. But we can note here that the MSL is always kind of in control and is the person who's kind of driving this process, right? Like if they don't like a slide, they just remove it. Or in this case, maybe they don't like this particular safety data graph. What we can do is click on similar slides, and there's another area where AI can help. Amongst all those hundreds of slides, I'm sure no one has any slides that might display similar pieces of data. But just in case you do, the system AI is very good at identifying similar pieces of content. And here we're going to go ahead and maybe select this slide instead of the other slide. Now we think we've created a good presentation for our meeting with Dr. Burton tomorrow. I'll go ahead and save that meeting to the folder that I created for Dr. Burton's meeting, where I've also placed other pieces of content that I think I might need during tomorrow's meeting, so that I can easily switch back and forth between these pieces of content in the meeting. So what we've seen here is kind of 3 examples of how AI can be applied to help an MSL prepare content for a meeting. The first one being looking at previous meetings to really suggest next best content or next best topic. Then using that topic to actually drive the creation of a tailored presentation for our meeting with Dr. Burton. And then finally using the AI to help identify similar slides. And I think each one of these are like different, as you were saying, with starting small, someone could start with maybe just the similar slides function to get comfortable and then kind of grow out from there to using it to generate a presentation or having it provide suggestions on topics. But I think, there's many different levels of the AI's involvement in the process.
Eric is so cool. I have a couple of questions that I know people have asked me that I'll share, but in the meanwhile, if people have questions, please put them in. The first question for you is this looking at actual content or at tags? Like, did you have to tag every single one of those slides with the topic for it to find it?
Yeah, that's the really neat thing about what the new LLMs that are available and the new technique is that you don't have to do much tagging. Right? But if that content is tagged, sure, that can be brought into the process as well to leverage existing investments. But with the technologies that are available now, you can actually just look at the actual content that's on the slides without needing to tag.
We have a question from John. So you're having that interaction, and Dr. Burden asks a question, but it's not on one of the slides that the AI put together for you. How can I get to an answer to a question quickly during a presentation?
Yeah, inside of Beacon, when you're presenting, you're able to quickly switch to other pieces of content. In this example, we've already populated this folder with some other pieces of content that we think might be needed inside of the meeting. So we can quickly toggle over to that presentation or to that slide. But one other area where AI is making an impact is also just around general search, right? So during the meeting, if you type in the question, it can quickly bring up the slides that are relevant to that particular question. So you can find the slide that you need very quickly and switch to it.
Thanks, Eric. We have a couple of questions from Jenny and from Pascal, specifically asking about how this stuff is approved, right? Because so
Sure.
much of the time materials are approved as is, that these 3, 4 slides must go together so they're fair and balanced and tell the complete story. With AI randomly grabbing slides, how do you address that?
Yeah, for sure. And there's two parts to stuff. First thing is we want to be clear, the slides that the AI that we saw during the walkthrough, those are slides that were from the organization's approved content, right? We're not quite at the point yet where AI can just go and generate a PowerPoint slide for you, right? But I do think the AI is at a point where it can help you select the slides. Now, the question of how do you ensure compliance once you're selecting the slides, in Beacon, there is the capability to define slide rules that can get pretty complex as far as which slides need to move with each other so that you can make sure your presentation is fair and balanced. And as it's selecting the slides, the AI would definitely be taking those rules into account as well. So making sure that you're always including safety data or that certain slides need to move together.
And Eric, I think one of the follow-up questions on that from Pascal specifically is about, do you have to reteach it that, or can it learn that because of the connections in ProMats or MedComs?
Yeah, it depends on the situation, but some organizations, they will have already defined like groups of content, like modular content that needs to move together. So then you can definitely leverage that. And yeah, instead of it's selecting the modules for you, right? But in other cases, it would need to be instructed with which slides might need to move with each other.
Perfect. Yeah, so I think the way I saw it during a setup once is in MedComs, when you do create dependency slides where it says these 3 must go together, if the answer to the question that the AI goes, oh, we want slide 2, it knows that it needs slides 1 and 3. So it would pull all 3 in because of the dependency already set up.
Exactly.
Okay, Eric, this is a big one. You ready?
Okay.
So you deploy this solution. How much time do you need to spend training the AI model before it can do this for you?
Yeah, that's the really interesting part about the new techniques that are out there now. They're what's called zero shot or few shot situations where it only needs maybe a few examples or no examples at all to be able to do this type of work, just because this is where you're leveraging kind of that inherent knowledge that's built into these large models to be able to generate basically what would be like an outline of the presentation.
We have a question about, again, this is specifically a product question for you around, where does all that data sit? Do you create a new data source within Beacon, or does it pull from CLM or something like that?
In our case, we are able to pull from Viva Vault, but yeah, presumably every organization has some type of content repository already today for approvals.
Yeah. So, Lauren, this would replace CLM, but CLM pulls from Vault, from whatever repository where things get approved. This pulls from the repositories also. So, whatever repository you're using, you would use this to present the slides versus the CLM product that you have. No problems. Oh, here we have a good one. So this goes back to kind of that whole selecting of the slides and making sure that things are compliant. The question is, how do you know what's being pulled together is fair and balanced?
Yeah, so because of the rules that have been defined by the organization on the individual slide level and the fact that we're respecting those rules, then by respecting those rules, then the rules would have captured that the message is fair and balanced. So, yeah, that's what we are working with today. I think, Scott, in your demo, you're going to be showing maybe some things around like being able to use the large language models to start looking at like compliance related issues.
Mhm.
And I think that's also a very exciting area that could be applied into situations like this as well.
Perfect. And maybe there was another follow-up question I can take, which is around, are you asking customers to re-approve or review the created presentation? Those are created on the fly. And so all the approval rules are done in advance when the slides are being approved. So today, many of you might have a solution for CLM, whether it's one that comes with your CRM or one of the handful that are out there in the industry. And most of those solutions do have the ability to enable somebody to do what they would call a custom presentation, right? So, custom presentation is where I can grab 3 slides from this deck and 4 slides from that deck and 2 slides and put them together. And when you turn on that functionality in any of those solutions, those rules stay intact so that it stays fair and balanced. And it's basically, instead of having to open 4 different slide decks to tell the story, it does combine them, but it keeps the approval rules to keep it fair and balanced, keep intact stories together based on what was approved in the system. Okay, I hope that helps. We have one last one, maybe. It says, this is a RAG implementation. How do you know it's comprehensive?
Yeah, so it is actually a RAG implementation. For others on the call, RAG stands for Retrieval Augmented Generation. And that's where we are using basically conducting a search first, and then using that search to then set the knowledge of the large language model. And this is a technique that is very popular, especially in like industry applications of AI, because it allows for managing of like things like hallucinations and things that you might heard lots about. So, and we do have to worry about whether or not that initial search is able to pull back the necessary content. You can use LLMs to help with that as well. But one other thing that I will point out is at the end of the day, and this is a tool that assists the MSL in selecting the content. And then they would be able to then further tailor the presentation for if there's anything that, they were looking for that wasn't part of that presentation. So having that
Absolutely.
human in the loop is always, at this stage is very important.
Yeah, human in the loop. It's still so important in any use of AI that the person who is using it is still ultimately responsible and accountable to the answers. And so we do a lot of testing, I know, on our solution, and Alucio does too, to make sure that it's giving accurate answers and that it's pulling comprehensively from the content using things that are the most recent to make sure that it's only approved content. But at the end of the day, our training to know if what we're showing and talking about is appropriate is still very important. So, very good. Those are all the questions that have come in so far for you, Eric. Eric's going to be with us the rest of the time. So if you do have additional questions, definitely put them in. So let's go into use case number 2. Number 2 is about insight generation. Now, the reason that AI might be helpful for insight generation is because of that pesky little free text, right? If it was all structured data with ABC answers and was counting them up, it wouldn't be so hard. But let's just get a quick check in really quick. Today, do you use free text in your insight generation? Put A if you only use free text, B, you don't do any free text, C, you combine structured with free text, or D, we don't collect insights. Like, we're just getting started here. Okay. We combine structured good only using free text. Excellent. Okay. So far, based on everybody does have access and the ability to do free text. It is amazing to me as I've gone through all the content, all the materials about insight generation, and I've probably run 40 insight workshops over the last year. How many companies are still worried about the use of free text? I think that it's just one of those areas that they're concerned about what people are going to write, and hence they try to put some restrictions in there. Well, I'm glad that you have retext because that's what we're going to focus on regarding insight generation. So, I'm going to show you an example of the use of AI for insight generation. I'm going to show you two use cases for using AI to improve insights. The first is what most people expect. It's what they call asking about when it comes to insight generation. And it's how to use AI to summarize and report on insight data that's been collected. Okay. So here's what that looks like. So this is our platform Quello. It's an insight generation platform that plugs into your CRM. The MSLs don't even realize that they're not in their CRM, but you get all sorts of cool, powerful tools that CRMs just don't provide. Okay? And so what we'll do is we'll do a quick analysis summarizing the insights that are in here. So I've got 12,000 insight responses just as a big, audacious grouping of them. And just like anywhere else, you could report on volumes and content, all that. But the part where we use AI is to summarize insights. Now, you could export all this and put it into a generic AI model. What we've done is we taught the AI and taught the prompts why you are asking. What is medical affairs? What is it that you are trying to accomplish by asking it these questions? Okay. And so what we do is just like the question that came up earlier about RAG. We go in and based on what you search, we'll go extract out the insights that are about that and then summarize. So let's just do a quick question here. We have a fake product called onculitis. So I'm just going to ask the question: what is being said about safety of onculitis, which is our made up treatment? It's going out to the 12,000 records. And again, you could use filters to narrow it down to say just my territory, just my country. It goes faster, obviously, if you have less. But here, what it does is it summarizes these are the key insights that have come out about safety. Now, let me just share with you some of what's going on under the hood from an education perspective. So, first, it's only looking at your insights, right? And this is a key differentiator. You have to make sure that if you are going to use an AI LLM platform to summarize insights, it has to be pointed at just your insights. It can't go grabbing random content or making up random content from the rest of the World Wide Web. Okay, so that's one. Two, it is so important that if you are going to use this for insights, that you actually can see the citations, right? These are actual individual insights that were used to summarize that content. I can actually come over here and verify that what it came up with matches the citations, right? And as we've had hundreds of MSLs and medical directors use this, they're looking and they're giving us feedback, thumbs up, thumbs down along the way, and we're monitoring it. So far, the feedback has been really good that what they see here matches what the insights are over here. Okay. So that is the next part. Oh, we have a blurry screen issue. Okay. Let me see if I can fix that real quick. Please just in the chat tell me if this is better. Yes, thank you. Okay. So that's the second lesson. The third thing is that AI is two-way. It's a discussion. It's a chat. It's not a search engine. So once I come in here and I find out that there's questions about the manageable side effects, as an example, well, I might want to ask more questions about that. So I want to continue my conversation, right? I can come in and just continue. Oh, well, I want to know more about number three, right? So now I can come in and continue to get more and more precise about what it is that I am getting in terms of feedback. Okay. And so here we go. HCPs believe that manageable side effects, oculitis, da da da. Right. And then again, here's the key insights and important. Here are the the citations. Okay, really important. And then I think a lot of people put in the chat earlier that it's also important that we train people because not everybody knows how to do prompts, right? So down here we have some, hey, well, based on what I've got, what are some prompt ideas, right? What are some things that are available? So if I submit down to one, I can look at that. I can also get coaching, but like one of my favorites is, oh, wow, maybe I've focused to my territory. I could ask a question. What are some additional follow up questions I should ask if the person brings up gastrointestinal side effects? Right. And so as you get more comfortable with the platform and using AI in general, you can actually start to ask it more complicated questions. Right. So now it's because it understands medical affairs, it's saying things like, how do you typically manage those? Are there any specific strategies that you find alleviate this? Right. And it can help me better prepare for my next interaction. Okay. Oh, so John asked the question, instead of searching for an insight topic, can it compile a report of recent insights from the past quarter? Yes. So let me go back up to the top. So one of the questions that is always is like, what are the most recent? Right now, here's what I find is that large language models are really, really good at summarizing text. Now, I could come in here and I could say, what are the top 10 most common insights from the last month? And I could get a summary. However, what I find is that if you have a lot of data, oop, oh, I didn't clear it. If you have a lot of data, then it may not know what's important to you. Right. And so what I like to do, if I can clear that, there we go, clear it out, is what I like to do is say, okay, well, great. Let me come in here and say, I want to see the last 1 month and hit apply, filter it down to the last month, and then summarize. And that gives you a better outcome when you can combine methodologies, right? You combine filtering with AI. So that's what I do find. We're not doing a full demo today, but I can send all of this and all of these other reports. I can send to PowerPoint, right? We have a little PowerPoint thing up here. So again, we're not doing system demos, we're doing AI discussion. But for those that asked, yes, you can then turn that into a report for your monthly updates. Okay. A question came in around bringing in additional data sources. Yeah. So one of the things that we find a lot of people are asking for is to look at insight across sources. Some of the sources that we've pulled in, and again, we just, instead of team, we would have just a drop down here that says medical information, right? So we pulled in medical information questions. We actually even have a team looking at prompting insight questions during a MedInfo interaction or from your website, right? If there's a discussion thread, we're also able to bring in some summary content. Now, one of the things that's interesting as you are working through your AI solutions is you want to make sure that it's clear some things are summaries and some things are individual data points, right? It has to make sure it knows. So in our world, we keep those separate and say, here's our summarized data. Here's what 20 people might have said at an ad board. And here's what hundreds of people said individually. Blaine, yes, social media. We do have a whole module. I wasn't going to get into that, but yes, right. All the same things happen in social media. So you can summarize what's being said there. Again, it pulls it in and then summarizes it for you. So social media is a great source. Thanks for bringing that up. Okay. So that's one of the two use cases within insights. It's kind of what most of us think about when we first get started. But I'd love to share with you the other use case. And the other use case is, how can I use AI to get better insights data at the time of submission, right? Better data in, better analysis I can do on the other end. So again, I'll just come in here. I'm going to record a new insight for somebody here. And again, maybe you're doing this through your CRM. Maybe we're doing it here. Doesn't matter. But I'm going to do a question about competitive landscape. And let's just say, we'll answer this question. Now, this question does have some multiple choice answers, right? So here, I'll just kind of show you some examples there. And let's do one on dosing schedule. Now, here's some things you can do with AI. I could come in here and say, if we give Dr. Sarah a grant, she will prescribe onculitis drug. What happens when I go to review that? We can actually give feedback, right? That it is not compliant, right? You don't do quid pro quo, right? And so it can stop me from submitting. Okay, well, then let's do something else. Let's do Dr. Sarah. I've seen this one 1,000 times. Is going to be at ASCO next month. Oh, this doesn't appear to be an insight. It does not address the question about factors influencing the decision to choose the competitor's product over onculitis, given that's what we're here talking about, right? So it can stop you and help you provide better insights data. It can tell you if you're being too verbose. It can tell you if you're not giving enough detail, so that by the time you get the information back to do the analysis, you have something useful to do. And this one says, good job. And we hit final review. Question about, does it automatically fill out fields in the CRM? Yeah. So if you set this up tied to your CRM, you actually don't need to come here. You're in your CRM, recording your interaction. I say new insight, form pops up. It already knows which MSL or which HCP you're talking about, and it pulls all that in. So yeah, good question. So anyway, I hope that's helpful. That's if you have any questions, please drop them in. But again, today it wasn't about doing system demos for you. It was about looking at two use cases, right? Specifically for the field, we looked at how we can use it to help find content that is specific for a conversation. And then looking at insights, we took a look at how we can use it for both analysis of the insights, but also to get better insights data. I hope that you found those helpful, help those to spark some creativity on how you might use it. Again, I like gifts too. I would love to know, what was the biggest takeaway you took out of this hour? I want to make sure we're doing things that bring you a lot of value, a lot of joy. So please let us know just in the chat, one or two things. What is the most important thing you heard in today's session? Can you just drop that in? Can you share briefly how to measure the impact of? Oh, okay. All right. So we've got 3 minutes to talk about the impact of medical affairs activities. Yes, I can give you the 1 minute version on that. AI is coming for medical affairs. Thank you. What else? What else is your biggest takeaways? And then hang on, I will share with you an impact of medical affairs discussion. What else? What else did you take out of today? Automation of presentation based on persona. Yeah, actually, I love the idea of, if you have personas captured in your CRM, one of the things that it can do is it could say, whoa, you want to show this for this persona versus this for that persona. Yes. Solution readiness stuff is actually maturing. Yes. And then there are concepts, there are things that we're still dreaming about. Love that, Pascal. Thank you, Blaine. Different capabilities that are different than what you've been exposed to. Yeah. Sometimes It's not until we see it that we can then dream about what could be next. So thanks for sharing that. Really appreciate it. And having tools that are specifically designed to improve effectiveness and efficiency is so valuable more than generic. Yes, absolutely. Um, we have a couple of minutes. Feel free to drop a couple more in or any other questions. But let me go back to the question that came up specifically about um, specifically about the impact of medical affairs. Okay, I will put in the show notes a link to our entire webinar that we did with our friends at Johnson& Johnson about the impact of medical affairs. But briefly, we separate impact from contribution from execution. See, most of the time when we say we want to measure something, we jump straight to things like number of interactions, number of publications, number of this, number of that. And that is an execution measure. Did I do the work that I committed to do? Why did I do it? Because we believe it's going to have an impact. So the work I do and the impact it has can't be the same thing. So what is impact? We teach it in something called the scientific journey. We believe that the reason that medical affairs exist, the reason that we generate data, the reason we get it validated through the medical community by publications and at congresses, the reason we engage on it, educate on it, all of that is to change beliefs that lead to different clinical behaviors that have a positive impact on patient lives. And so what we use our platform to do is actually measure and capture changes in those beliefs. And one of the modules that we were focused on the AI, but is what we call our mindset alignment scores. And we're actually able to see a change in belief and mindset over time. And then we compare that to available compliant behavioral changes to see if the belief changed the behavior. That's the impact. Now, after we all agree that that's the impact, now we can look at, was it this publication that led to it, or this data, or these conversations, and which programs led to it. So we can get into the how, but if we don't agree on what the impact is, we'll never get to how did the activities lead to that change. So I hope that is helpful. And again, we'll include in the show notes, I think I've got my team on the line, a link to the entire hour with our friends at Johnson& Johnson that we did that webinar. Okay. Good. What other questions? If you have any questions, we have a couple of minutes left. All right. Well, everybody, I want to give a big shout out again to Eric from Alucio, our friend. I love spending time with you, and thank you so much for bringing value to this team. And everybody, we will have a recording of this posted. And I hope everybody has a wonderful end to your year and have a great kickoff to 2025. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, Scott.